up, Moogles? It's the Schwantz27 here, and it's the end of the 5th week of the Kefka Grand Prix Deluxe event, so let's recap all of the racing action with a look at the standings at the end of the video and the flags for next week's race. It was the second time around for the Figaro Desert Passage track, which had a 7-character 10S per Kefka unlock with 12 bosses in the Ancient Castle check for Kefka Tower skip. It was an Edgar and Locke start with 50,000 GP, but no experience eggs or Illuminas in shops. Chests were shuffled plus 40% random, and 5% of those were monster in a boxes. You can multi-summon Espers and learn Ultimate at 254 MP from uncursing a shield at 7 to 13 battles. With an almost guaranteed skip, let's see how the time shook out for each of the cart classes. First up was the Chocobo class getting Go-Go to saddle up with Throw Edgar and Magitech Locke, so we really had a strong start, especially with 2 elemental schemes for sale in the Returner's Hideout and shurikens in the World of Balance Narsh. Our free checks gave us Tritok Heir to the Figaro Throne and a choice of a Force Armor or a Pearl Lance, bleh. But the real prize is a minimum 7 Battle Curse Shield as well as an Ice Shield in the Classroom chest and offerings for sale in the South Figaro Relic Shop. Too bad it was in the World of Balance, so no Edgar discount there. Heading down to the engine room was Swordtech Natural Magic Shadow, but this is only after getting past a tough goddess fight. Continuing onwards to the Ancient Castle gifted us Calmness Protection in Fenrir with Life 2 and Magic Power +1 on the Esper, which is a nice one for this seed, along with a Genji armor from the Red Dragon. Shadow's free check had a Minerva, and heading up to the Floating Continent right after seemed to be where the seed opened up with Capture Sabin, but only after some really tough Chatternook and Doom fights on the way in. A Ragnarok Esper with Magic Power +2 for defeating Flame Eater at the midway point, and Guardian guarding Dance Natural Magic Setzer at the end. With so many directions to go in, Outlaw Star decided to get Carbunkled from the Colon Jinin, and then getting past some Doom Dragon fights at Imperial Camp gave us a dead check Magus Rod. Barren Falls, however, gave us our 7th character, which was an important one with Slot Celeste, so you could get that Magitech upgrade for Locke. Had you instead gone to the South Figaro Cave early, you would have gotten Phoenix, and Mount Colts was another save-in dead check with an Ice Shield. The South Figaro Prisoner spot was where Strago was hiding out, but the Magitech Factory was the next best location to go to, giving out Odin, the Ragnarok Sword, and Realm after a fight with the Spicy Chicken, so all 3 statue bosses were already found. With only 6 Espers, it was time to do our Esper item checks and peekables, so to Zen Thief was a cheap 1,753 GP for Ifrit, Esper Mountain at Zone Seat, Collapsing House as Palador, and Search the Skies rounded out Starlet for Go mode. Cyan was hanging out at Kefka at Narsh, so some runners went there instead of going to the Floating Continent right away. Although there were tough bosses outside of Kefka's Tower, inside we still had to deal with tentacles and a covert marshal yeeting things at our party in the middle track, a harmless leader, and a glass cannon air force for the side parties. Party compositions outside of the upgraded Locke, Magitech, or Edgar with Throgo had Shadow using Ultimate and Swordtech 5 to refill MP, along with an Atma Weapon offering combo or a Ragnarok to give to Celeste. With access to Exfer and Fenrir, Tier 2 was sure to be the mean one this time around, having 3 of 4 party members frozen, which unfortunately cut into Outlaw Star's 136.09 time, which put him in 3rd place behind winner Hefe at 131.19 and Magre having 60 seconds cleared off at an adjusted time of 132.35. Saberwolf ended up in 4th place with 138.26, and unfortunately his Life 3 spell had no effect since he didn't finish in the bottom 3rd this time around. So I guess yay for you? Question mark? Still feels bad about the MP though. In the Blackjack class, Locke had Slot, Edgar had Rage with Toe Cutter for Shrapnel to start, and this time Strago was our Magitech user. The starting free checks gave us Torador on the throne with an Atma Weapon in a chest inside the Figaro Castle, and a difficult choice of a Force Shield or Force Shield in the Narsh Weapon Shop, a Maximum Battle 13 Curse Shield, but at least this is another cheap to Zen Thief selling a 9k gem box, which we could at least flip for a 3 times return. Just like in the last seed, we're looking for Celeste to upgrade the Magitech ability, and runners that dove into the Phoenix Cave early were rewarded with a Genji glove in a chest and Control Celeste if you didn't wipe to a trap chest on a spike with your party of 1. Whew! Her free South Figaro prisoner spot gave a dead check Aegis shield, and her other check Opera House is where we found a Bahamut Esper that not only could be multi-summoned, but taught Ultimate Life 2 and had a Strength +1 bonus on it. The dragon in the Opera House in the World of Ruin dropped another Atma weapon if you somehow missed the first one. South Figaro Cave was a French vanilla tentacles, which was a problem if you went here earlier, but the reward was Zone Seek Teaching Mute. Finally heading into the Magitech Factor, where you got Kieran, another Genji glove, another boss that moved a few spots over with cranes at the end of the Mode 7 goodness, and then Vargas granted Morph Setzer. Heading straight to our newest characters, his free check, Kolonjin had Shiva and was selling Thunder and Pearl Rods in the World of Balance. Finally, getting into Strago's checks, there was an offering at the top versus the Three Stooges, a Dirt Dragon dropping yet another Atma weapon in the middle, and Phoenix Esper at the bottom. Setzer's other two checks gave out Ragnarok the Esper at Search the Skies and Ragnarok the Sword at Darrow's Tomb. Since we had to do this for our Kefka Tower skip, Engine Room and Ancient Castle were both Espers, with a dragon having a snow muffler, so our only checks left at this point were Burning House, Ebbets Rock, and Kefka at Narsh, which is where Jesus the Frog found Lore Shadow with Grand Train. Gal Manor had Sketch Mog, so we needed just one more Esper for Go mode. Velt Cave had an NPC sprite at the end signaling a dead check, but the Tritok spot had Palador, while the Narsh Dragon dropped a useless Dragon Horn. If you missed Celeste in Phoenix Cave and didn't get Setzer, you could have alternatively gotten Sabin from Lone Wolf, Gogo from Floating Continent, and Umaro on the Phantom Train for a different series of characters. Marshall once again showed up in Kefka's Tower, but this time it was Pluto armor as his buddies. Another bad middle lane with Rexol and Guardian, with the other side getting Ultros 1. Tons of Atma weapons, a Ragnarok sword, an upgraded Magitech ability, Lore Shadow with Grand Train is how our final party was kitted, and we had Exfer and Mute for the first two tiers, but no Calmness protection meant you were just going to roll with the punches of potentially losing party members before Kefka. Narves in 4th place casted Bolt 3, which caused 1 free fits in 1st place to lose 1 minute at 1:32.28. Boo the Runner in 2nd place actually casted Reflect to bounce the spell back and not lose any time at 1:34.44. Physics Shebang in 3rd had his time adjusted to 1:39.20, and Narves was also struck by lightning, so his time was 1:40.54. Shadow Sid used a quick cast to get 20 minutes and 3 seconds off of his time, which was the difference between him and 1st place divided in half. But it was 6 seconds short of 8th place. Stupid Sexy Flanders is 1:51.25. So even though he jumped down from 12th place ahead of Ensign Wesley, who also gained 3 minutes with haste too, putting him just 12 seconds behind 8th place in 10th place. Shadow Sid wasn't able to snag any points this week since he was in 9th place and only the top 8 get them in this cart class. The Falcon Cart class had Control Mog hanging with Tools Lock and X-Magic Edgar, with a gem box on the Figaro Throne and an easy choice of a Valiant Knife over a Snow Muffler in the Norse Weapon Shop, with a 10 battle Curse Shield and a Katana Soul in the Classroom Monster in a box, with a Noise Blaster for your Tools user for an offering build if you checked that early. Tizen Thief was the most expensive of the 3 seeds in this one, but only at 15,000, it was an easy buy for Siren. The 40% random chest really showed in this seed with a Minerva, Fixed Dice, Atma Weapon, Genji Glove, and Dragon Horn, all there for the looting. While Drulith was flying during his looting route, he ran into the Doomgaze spot, and at level 3, even with the Valiant Knife offering, Ultras 3 had just too much HP for his team. Once he got settled again, he could take out a different Ultros 1 at South Figaro Cave for Toronto. Heading to Edgar's Loop, a Cat Hood in the Engine Room gave way to the Ragnarok Esper at Ancient Castle with a hostile White Dragon at lower levels with a triple spell opener, but getting through that fight got you Genji armor. Now that we've exhausted Edgar and most of Locke's checks, we are forgetting about Phoenix Cave. That's sort of blacked out of our minds at this point. Mog had a choice of Capture, Setzer, and Ice Shield at Lone Wolf, and the Narsh battle had Sword Tech Natural Magic Realm, so the top of the mountain was where the party was at. Hey, where's my invite? This also meant we can get our revenge on Ultros 3 and get the Alexander reward. Darrow's Tomb and Colon Jinin were also Espers, so it was 3 for 3 on Shiny Stones with Setzer's checks. Owzer's Mansion showed Morph Shadow Painting. If you decided to skip out on the Floating Continent right away, you retreated to Umaro at Gal Manor, showed at Tritok, a Cat Hood at Yeti Cave, a Dead Check Velt Cave like in the Blackjack Seed, and another Dead Check in Esper Mountain as well. Moogle Defense was Phoenix, so the only option, other than Phoenix Cave, which actually was a Valiant Knife, was to head to the Floating Continent for more checks, as even with the auction house giving an Esper, we were still 1 short. The first reward was Strago, so jumping off the island wasn't a better option than finishing the check at that point. Fenrir and Golem were the other 2 rewards, so it was well worth the trip here, even with Siegfried annoying us right before the final fight. Kefka's Tower had their rude bosses on the sides this seed, with Poltergeist moving over from his vanilla spot and Tentacles on the left-hand side. X-Zone for instant death, Siren, and both Golem and Fenrir made the Kefka fight pretty straightforward, with a Valiant Knife offering, or Atma Weapon offering, or even Fixed Ice offering. Sword Tech 6 for Realm, or even Ultima with Sword Tech 5 to replenish magic, also rounded out the party. Drulith's 1:23:58 time was good enough for 6th place, and he also used the Vanish spell to avoid any incoming attacks, and Honeydew, in 7th place with a 1:24:51, would have leaped into the points with a drain usage, but Drulith avoided it to stay in the green, as only the top 6 in this card class got points. Drinks Glue did use Slow 2 in 2nd place on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th place contenders, but the placements didn't change even with 60 seconds added to their times, and Falcon hit in 1st place with a 1:12:08. Looking at the overall standings, 32 points is the cutoff line for the finals after this week's tracks, and there's only 9 points separating 10th place from 20th place. So there's still 3 more weeks to get back into the running for the final 16 places. This also means that there's only 3 more weeks to use the MP that you've accrued in the 8-week total heat before it resets for the finals. Next week's track is the Leet River Rally with a 8 characters, 8 Esper Kefka unlock, with the Leet River check and 12 bosses being required for Kefka Tower skin. We'll start with 4 characters, including a Health Strago and Abandoned costume. No Ultima in this seed, and no free characters and Espers either, so you'll have to earn your progression. This week we had several more instances of magic spells determining placement, or rather, clutch defensive spells keeping placements of certain runners. We'll see what happens when we hit the raft for the next track. I've been DoshSwans27. Until next time.